Okie doke. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are very fine. It is another week. Did you know that this is the very last week of this month of July? And then when we get into August, we have 7 months in our belt. And what's interesting is that on the 7th month of this year, the country will officially have experienced 1 year after the coming in of the new regime. In short, the New Dawn government will be clocking 1 year. You see, time is amazing. When you look at the power of time and how it passes, its passage and everything about it, it makes you realize that every moment you have, you must be awake, you must be alert, you must be intentional, you must be decisive about what you want to achieve, and you must have some kind of tracker to make it happen. So we all set these great goals at the beginning of the year. I mean, that's part of what we all do. We call them New Year resolutions. But it's sad that a lot of people don't put a system around it just to make sure that everything that you intended to happen happens. In short, if you need to get your goals in place, get your goals in place. If you need to monitor those goals, make sure you're monitoring those goals. For a lot of people, that doesn't happen. And the unfortunate part is that they do get to the end of the year and the year is over and they've got nothing to show. So it's so important that we have these things together. Now, I'm very proud of this group we have here and all the people that we interact with on a regular basis, including those of you on Facebook. And by the way, I've remembered, if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like the video, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications buttons to stay alerted of every new video. So you can either pick some videos or all videos that are posted on my page, on my channel on YouTube. Now, having said that, back on with what I was saying. So it's amazing that many of us don't really put ourselves to task with this. And so you get to the end of the year and you look back and say, what did I do? And that's why it's so important to have trackable goals with the system, like the one that Decisive teaches in the Mindset Change program, whose aim is very simple, to help you keep track. And you have to monitor it on a regular basis. So this day, I am still continuing my series on leadership, very, very important stuff, and I'm going to drop it immediately. Welcome to those of you joining us by Facebook. Thank you for coming and being part of what we're doing here. And today I am continuing the series I've been running, which is good leadership. And we're talking about the 12 leadership principles, okay? So they are called 12 principles of leadership or military leadership, and these were written by one Captain Ron Roberts of the US Army, and he did a great series around this, and I actually gleaned from some of his write-ups and a lot of others. I mean, I've got Dr. John Maxwell, I've got a number of other leaders, Bill Hybels, in spite of his issues, but I mean, there's really, really good stuff that we've been able to glean, and also, of course, leadership as taught under the MBA program. So the 12 points for which we are now getting to the 10th and 11th today, we looked at number 1, which was lead from the front. Great leaders always lead from the front. They lead by example. So you don't lead by standing behind. That's what bosses do. They stand behind and they direct people to move ahead. Keep going, keep going. That's what bosses do. That's what people who don't have any inkling of leadership do. But great leaders, what do? They lead from the front. 2, have self-confidence, not egoism. Very thin line between being egotistical and being self-confident. And sometimes, for example, certain cultures, Americans being a very good example, come out as cocky. It's not really being cocky, it's just being confident about yourself. And as a leader, self-confidence is a lifesaver, because if you are not sure about what you're doing, I assure you, nobody's going to get, courage where the leader doesn't have it. And then 3, have moral courage. So be able to stand for what is right, even when it is not fashionable to do so. This is one of the greatest challenges a lot of people today face, because they don't have that ability to stand for what is right when they need to stand for what is right. There are times when the popular opinion will be different. There are times when, one of my favorite examples has got to be when Paul in the Bible confronts Peter over his seeming change when he comes around the Jews of Jerusalem. I mean, these Jews of Jerusalem must have been super influential. They come into the church and they're trying to get the whole church back into legal Judaism. And when Peter was with Paul elsewhere, he was all cool. He understood the Hellenic Jews. Hellenic Jews were Jews that grew up in Alexandria and other different places away from the traditional Judaistic type of life. And so when they became saved and born again, they came into the body of Christ. But there was this whole thing about they should do some of the things that Jews do, like circumcision and what have you. So Peter seemed to be okay with them. But when he goes to Jerusalem, he does a 180 degree, and Paul was not amused and he had to confront him. I think that's very, very interesting. And he confronted him publicly. So obviously Paul spoke with a lot of, courage, because that Peter was the leader of the church. Number 4, have physical courage. There are times when you will have to put your very life on the line. You'll have to put your earnings, put your well-being on the line for the sake of standing for what is right. That is something, again, a lot of people don't do. Number 5, foster teamwork. There is no I in team. I like that. There's no I in team. So a team is spelled T-E-A-M. Together, everyone achieves more. I is not in that word. And so teamwork is the secret to really getting superb results. Number 6, have fitness and energy. Be willing to be first in, last out. It's a great example. If you want people to be early, be the first there. If you want to give examples, give examples. For example, we do these morning calls. As leaders, we are here on the dot, on the dot. It paints a very, very bad picture when you as a leader don't show up on time. I've been invited to a number of platforms and I show up before the leaders. And at my level, with what I've learned, all these programs we do all the time, I mean, we've learned so much under the NLP program, under the Mindset Change program, under many programs I teach myself. And one thing we've learned is when you see something is not right, you confront it so that you are actually helping the person. Even if at the time it may not look right, but you're setting the right precedence. And on a number of occasions, I've had to, tell people that invite you that, hey, what happened to the time? I mean, the last thing you want as a leader is have your guests show up before you. It just really paints a bad picture. And unfortunately, here in Zambia, anyway, have fitness and energy and be there always. Number 9, be aggressive and bold. Number 10, take care of the soldiers, one of the greatest minuses in leadership in this country. A lot of leaders, including business leaders, look out for themselves more than they look out for those who are under their care. Number 9, be a student of the past. He that does not learn from the past is bound to repeat it. So you need to do that. And number 10, which we'll be covering today, is be decisive. So let's go into being decisive. Excuse me. Now, this is a quote by President Theodore Roosevelt. He said, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. I love that. I'm just going to say it again. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. So indecisiveness is a pain in the butt. And unfortunately, a lot of people are very indecisive. That's why they can't make great leaders. You see, indecision is one of the worst attributes any person could ever possess. Worse still, one tasked with leadership. Why is this so? Because it leaves the entire situation that requires a bold and concise decision worse off. As the quote suggests, it is even better that one makes a wrong decision and suffers consequences that no decision and suffer where they could have been victorious. Okay, so it is better that one makes a wrong decision and suffers the consequences than no decision and suffer where they could have been victorious. What am I saying? I am saying make a wrong decision. Okay, even if you're going to suffer some kind of setback because of that wrong decision, it's okay. It's better than not making any kind of decision. Now, there are many accounts of great victories being won by leaders who chose to face boldly the insurmountable odds and make what seemed like a bad decision, only to emerge victorious. And there are also tales of leaders who were completely undecided, and that led to massive casualties and losses, especially in war. So in war, it's better you just march out there and die for your mistakes than do nothing and die for your mistakes. I mean, which is better, all right? So they say, when in doubt, one ought to go with their gut feeling, even if it turns out to be the wrong one. Decisive will always be better and more admirable a quality any day than indecision. There is another term, in my opinion, that properly describes indecision: cowardice. Okay, and I know that's a painful word to use, but I tell you something, a lot of people are absolute yellow bellies. When it comes to making a decision, and that decision comes with a price, they would rather cower in indecision. Okay, one of the things you need to do is just learn, I mean, even Jesus said it, and the Bible says it very well. Let your yes be yes, and let your no be no. But don't you be middle-minded and half-minded and half-baked and you don't know what to do. If you can't do something, say, sorry, I will not be able to do it at this particular time, perhaps later. And if something doesn't go right with your inner, your conscience, just come out and say it. This, I don't know if it's lack of assertiveness in our culture as Zambians, I'm not very sure. But one of the saddest things is that many times, for many of us as Zambians, we are not willing to make those hard choices, those hard decisions. I'll give you a very good one based on my teachings on the sunk cost fallacy, which is part of the 3 detractors to destiny. In the sunk cost fallacy, many of us make decisions, go for something, begin to run with it, and then halfway through, we realize we made a big mistake, the thing is not working. Indecision is choosing to stay there. I don't know whether it's to save face or, well, since we started already. I mean, there are times when this thing is not working, let me pull the plug. And pulling the plug is a good thing, even if it comes at a great cost. If you need to retreat, retreat. If you need to forge ahead, forge ahead. But for God's sake, don't stay undecided. All right? If that one of the things that, for example, in marriages, that we always ask people, that you even have to ask yourself, is this: when things don't look like they're going well, and it's not just marriage, it could be even a partnership in business, it could be a decision you made towards some kind of supply. If things are not going right, you've got to ask yourself that big question: do you want to continue or not? Is the goal worth the pain? If the answer is yes, then by God, do everything in your power to make it work. But don't be those people who you don't know, do you want to continue with this? Okay, so do you want to end it? But you see, make up your mind. Are you going to do it or you're not going to do it? And it's very important you do that. And I hope I'm actually speaking to someone here, because I really feel that this is one area where a lot of people really suffer. They just are not decisive. If you're going to, you every day you go to work, but every day you're depressed at your workplace. You hate that job. So what are your plans then? If you come every day and you're complaining about the boss, that's not going to help, because you're making a bad situation worse. So my question to you is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to exit or are you going to stay? No, I'm going to exit. Good. Then if you're going to exit, can you start putting a plan together for your exit? All right, fine. Even if it's going to take you 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, but put a plan together for your exit and begin to actively work to exit. But even as you do so, do it well. Use wisdom. Consult widely. Do the right thing. But make a decision. Don't be undecided about stuff, because you pay a very bitter price for indecision. Which brings us to the next item now. So we were talking about indecision. Now we're looking at the next topic, which is determination. Show determination. All right. George Patton, one of the greatest generals in the US, this is World War II era, said, "You are never beaten until you admit it." I love it. I'll say that one again. You are never beaten until you admit it. So you gotta admit, you gotta say, you know what, I'm beat. And only when you say you're beaten, that's when everything goes south. So if you've not admitted being defeated, you're not defeated yet, okay? So when it comes to leadership, you don't just keep it inside or even say it, you show it. So go out there, show your men, show your women. This means that when placed in a position of leadership, you cannot afford to do what I hear many speak of today, being in touch with your feminine side. Okay, that's me being a man now. All right, whilst it may be good to cry and let your emotions run free, it is not always wise. Listen to me, especially when you lead many different types of people that expect a show of confidence and determination in the face of great adversity. Now, what does that mean? That means when things look terrible, when people want to throw in the towel and give up, the last thing you do as a leader is go there and show that things are bad and, oh my God, this is not going to work. Oh my God, I think let's just give up. Oh, freaking out. No, you don't freak out in front of your men. And I'm dead serious about that. It doesn't matter how bad the things are. We can be realistic about the situation, but we definitely do not show any weakness to our people who are following us, because that is the difference between success and failure. In the film, very good movie, in the film Saving Private Ryan, there is a scene where Captain Miller, and that Captain Miller was the gentleman that was, sorry, Captain Miller was played by Tom Hanks, makes a decision to disarm some snipers who would pose a great danger to any future Allied forces that would find themselves at that particular place they were in. And this decision was greatly opposed by a band of soldiers because, as they put it, it was not their mission. Their mission was to save Private Ryan, not to disarm some snipers, okay? But being the leader, listen to this, being the leader, he went ahead and gave the order to proceed with the task of what? Of disarming these soldiers. Now listen to the story. Whilst they did indeed neutralize the danger, it came at a loss of one of their members, T4 medic Wade, who was played by Giovanni Ribisi. Now the scene is heart-wrenching, okay? Because he dies calling for his mother. And in spite of how painful this was, Captain Miller, with a straight face, gives orders for his burial and then leaves the scene and goes somewhere private where he breaks down and weeps deeply but quietly. After he gets a hold of his emotions, he wipes away his tears and goes back as if nothing happens. Now that's very interesting. As one watches, we are led to sympathize with him because it was a call for which some of the men indicated they had a bad feeling about it, but this was ignored. And so he carried the burden of a good decision with a terrible price, the death of one of his men under his care, okay? And this perfectly ties in with being decisive, you see? And sticking with that decision, even if it costs a very high price, unless it is no longer logical to maintain such a stand, especially in the case of the sunk cost fallacy, okay? So for leaders, one not only leads from the front, but they must maintain a bold, courageous, and determined exterior. It is very critical for the sake of those being led. Show a face of bold determination. Leadership will always call for the abandonment of self-egotism, for selflessness that cares about others far more than about self. Captain Miller had to maintain such an exterior for the sake of his men. Listen to that one, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to get that one. This also applies to all aspects of leadership, whether you are a husband and a father, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a line manager, whether you're a director, even CEO, in any organization, always be the example and always project that strong and determined exterior. You never, and I mean it, you never go out there and start whimpering in the presence of all these other people, because by doing so, what you're doing is you're projecting a very negative picture, and that's going to actually cost you and your men a lot. you are going to cause a deep, deep drop in morale. That's why morale is so important. And I'll tell you this, and it sounds wrong, of course. You do not want a situation where people are going to, this is why they manage information. And I want to kind of go a bit into that. This is why you manage information. In all organizations, information is given according to the rank and level of responsibility of an individual. That's why, for example, in our industry, we always say this: praises go down, complaints and problems go up. Hear me again. Praises go down, complaints and problems go up. So if you've got a situation that you don't understand, if you've got a problem that isn't making sense, what do? Upwards. Talk to the person who is overseeing you. So take that upwards. Never take problems downwards. Because if you take the problem downward, those people have A, no authority to make a decision to avert that. B, no capacity to handle the emotional turmoil that goes with such a problem. With great power comes great responsibility. So if you're a leader, it means you are responsible. And being responsible is made of two words: responsible. You have responsibility, so you have response to ability. That means you have what it takes to handle the problems. That's why they give it to you. And so when a problem shows up, never take it downward. So for example, let me be very blunt. In our industry, like ours, we have problems with products. We have problems with warehouses closing from time to time. We have problems with management, especially management. We have problems with delivery issues. We have problems with delays. We have problems with licensing. There are so many problems that dog us as leaders. The last thing you do, hear me, is to go to your downline and say, oh, we have a problem. One of our products has actually been, the license has been taken away. They claim there are issues in the product. Why are you telling a downline such information? How is that supposed to help them? What you do is you take it upward. Deal with your leaders. They deal with their leaders. They deal with their leaders. And then it gets to management and they deal with it at that level and they sort it out. And if there's a problem, you manage the information. To attend the memorial of one of my dear uncles, my aunt actually, it was my aunt, 1 year since she passed away. And so at the memorial, we were there on time and we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. The typical Zambian thing, waiting and waiting. And so we're almost clocking an hour of waiting. And in fact, we clocked an hour of waiting. So the time was supposed to be a certain time. We were 1 hour in and nothing had started yet. And I said, wow, typical. And then this person comes up on the stage and this is what they say. Listen to me now to demonstrate how this is so bad. They said, and I quote, paraphrased, of course, I can't remember word for word. They said, sorry, just letting you know all that we are still, we're soon commencing the event, the situation. But what happened is we are waiting for the husband to the deceased to come. And then as soon as he's here, he's delayed. As soon as he's here, we start. So I turn to my wife and say, wow, talk about managing information. Who does that? Why would you? Yes, he may be late, but there's absolutely no way you go to a public platform like that and you say, everybody's there, right? And you say, oh, whenever maliro bachedwa, or whenever memorial bachedwa, so bakafika tizayam. I mean, that's terrible. They could have said, you see, in information management, you don't lie, but you don't say everything. So all you say is, we have a technical challenge, we are working on it, and as soon as it's sorted out, we should be starting soon. We're just winding up 1 or 2 unforeseen issues. As soon as those are in order, we will begin. We're deeply sorry for the delay. Please bear with us. Simple. See, I've not said whoever is late. I mean, there's too much information. You don't need to tell people, oh, the pastor and the wife are quarreling in the office. That's why the service has not started. So in managing information, it's very important, especially as a leader, that you always show an exterior that's determined and everything is in order. yesterday, this last 2 weeks, I've been binging on Mission Impossible. So yeah, I know that's just a movie, but there's some really interesting things. So I've been binging on Mission Impossible, and one of the reason why the film is called Mission Impossible is because they do things that are virtually impossible. So, and then of course a lot of things seem to just be blind luck. And so there's a situation which is really bad, absolutely negative. Chances of success are almost zero. and everybody's asking Ethan Hunt, like, so what's the plan? And I always like what Ethan Hunt would answer, especially in Fallout. He says, we're working on it. So he says, you mean to tell me we don't have a plan? No, that's not what I said. I said, we're working on it. So literally, he is running with the situation. Everything is looking as negative as possible. Things are about to fall apart. But when asked, do we have an option? He always says, we're working on it and it's gonna work. I will get that thing done. I will get that thing done. Of course, it's entertainment, so they have to leave it to the last second and all that stuff just to get you all riled up in watching the thing like, oh my God. But the beauty about it is what I love is the determination to keep a positive exterior. Even when we'll find a way, it will work. And of course, it's entertainment, it works, and that's what makes the movie great. But you know what, I love that whole idea, because even if you go into the greatest battles and greatest challenges you'll ever come across in industry, you hear the same story. Many great leaders were giving a positive outlook in spite of all the odds being negative. That's why you can't blame. Look, in politics, you have to manage information. So even our previous regime, there's no way that any of them, including our beloved former president, would come out in the public and say, you know what, things really look bad. I don't see us winning. No, when you go out there, you say, we're going to beat this guy. I mean, I still remember Dr. Lungu saying, I beat him in 2015. I beat him in 2016, and I will beat him again. That's how politicians talk. You can't go out there and start saying, oh, no, things really look terrible. Oh my God, things are so bad. You don't put up such a face, not in front of people, because you must show determination. Now, I know that's funny. I know it's politics, but you get my point. My point is show determination. That's what leadership is. When you go in the home, things are bad. Have a come to Jesus talk with the family. That's very important, but be a leader. Be a leader. If you're a man, be a man. And I know we live in an era where they say, no, be in touch with your feminine self. I know I say that. But you know what? There are certain instances that it just doesn't look nice for daddy to be crying in front of children. No, not in front of the children. Now, if you as daddy starts crying, what do you think the children will do? So there are certain situations where you must be strong for the sake of others. There are times when it's very powerful to be emotional, and you can leverage that. Obama was very good at that. Kaunda did it as well. It is right to be emotional, but there are times you must be solid. You must be a man. And if you're a woman, you must be a woman, because women are very strong. So be a woman. Do your thing. Do your thing. Do your thing. Not leader. You're a man. Man up. Don't do that whole crying in front of people, telling them things have gone wrong. No, not when you're leading. So I think I've made my point. Next week, we're looking at the last of this series. Very, very interesting. We're dealing with the topic of, hold on, I see the title, strength of character. Now, that's a really interesting one. That's going to take up my whole day presentation next week. But in closing, let me leave you with this word. Whatever you project on the outside, I'm not saying be a hypocrite, of course, but what I'm saying is, for the sake of your men, for the sake of your women, for the sake of the people that you're leading, put up the right, determined exterior. Show that you have all under control, because they need that. Okay, they need it. Not you, they do. So for the sake of those people, you must show that. And that's why they say the best way to teach the best way to learn many times is to teach. In short, if you want to be the best you can ever be, lead. You'll be amazed. Lead, and it'll work. So for myself, thank you so much. Tomorrow we have Aunt Sylvia coming through with her usual mindset change program. From myself and our team, have a great morning. Remember to share this video around and take the notes again. Cheerio. Bye.